What a beautiful couple of days we've had for the opening of Garden Week here in Virginia. Hopefully you were able to go on a tour or maybe even work in your own garden some today. I'm Richard Nunnally, and this is Virginia Homegrown. In the second half of our show tonight, we're going to take you out to Glen Allen, Virginia, and look at a property that's being managed under ecological gardening. But to get started, many of us suffered from the winds of Hurricane Isabel. A couple of weeks ago, I went out with Doug Robbins and looked at a property that he's trying to recover that lost virtually every tree on the site. We're out here at Bell Arbor subdivision in Chesterfield County, and I know that this is one area that the storm affected pretty heavily back in the fall, didn't it?
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. I mean, this particular lot got hit pretty hard. One of those downdrafts of the wind from the storm and took most of the trees out.
Well, Doug, it's obvious that trees were left back here on this side of the property specifically by the developers. What do you think they sort of had in mind when they were leaving this many trees?
Well, I believe what the developers wanted to do is to leave the trees, one, to provide some shade, but also to provide some erosion control for silt washing down, and the more trees and the more plant material that is there will allow for water to seep through as opposed to washing through. So they left a lot of that natural vegetation. It's also more attractive for their view out to the pond as well.
Well, and as you look along here, the property right behind us was left extremely natural. So you've got wild plants, native plants, and really not much disturbance at all.
Exactly. And again, those folks from a maintenance standpoint didn't really want to do a whole lot, as well as they felt like the natural beauty was enjoyable, and again, from an erosion control standpoint, made sense. Yeah.
Well, as we can see across the lake, it's obvious that there's grass right up to the waterfront, but on your side, it's apparent that that's been avoided. Was that part of the plan?
Well, I know the developers here were very conscious of the environment and making sure that they don't end up with silt and fertilizer and tons of things in the pond that would eventually damage the pond, the ecosystem of the pond. So they have always encouraged the folks on this side of the pond to maintain their trees, maintain it as much of a natural state as possible.
So Doug, what happened here?
Well, this is the after effects of Hurricane Isabel. Obviously the winds did not hit some of the trees down here or on the other side. Some of the downdrafts from the storms, I've seen this frequently, and it kind of damaged these trees, and they hit the others, and you had to remove them all.
We'll go over and look at some of the area that was left as a result of the storm, and maybe you can give us a few ideas of some of the situations you're going to have to deal with in trying to develop a plan for recovery here.
Okay, sounds great.
Well, Doug, here you've got a nice landscape plan, and I know you've talked with the homeowners and you've taken into consideration their desires and their lifestyle. Why don't you go over a little bit of the features here that really make this their property?
Yes. Richard, we're sitting in this area here on the aggregate porch, and what they really wanted, and when they walked out of their back, they wanted to be able to have a level surface. They wanted to have some grass and some turf. They wanted an extension of a garden, and they wanted to make sure that this area was supported well. So we suggested the retaining wall with some steps down to a path that would lead down to an area where they can actually fish off of. Their desire was to come out here and just casually fish off of a fishing rock and near the retaining wall.
Now, it looks like this retaining wall goes the complete width of the property, so you'd actually be building a terrace across here to make this level.
That is correct, and that's going to also have a considerable amount of drainage, because there is going to be some water that's going to be going through there, and the plant material is here to just kind of soften it up and beautify it, and allowing them to have a pathway that is stable enough for them to walk down without them feeling as though they're going straight downhill.
And the plants that you've chosen, this is obviously now going to have full open sun. Any significance to some of these plants?
Well, some of the plant material, we did try to go back and put some of the native type plant material in there. We used clethra, which is going to be at the border of the pond. We used some other plants that would provide some winter interest, like winterberry, holly, and we also used some tree-form bayberry to allow for some ornamental shade over the period of years once they take off.
Okay. Well, Doug, thanks. You've given us some good information and certainly some good options for these homeowners as a way to do something with the devastation that the storm left them.